Who controls the reality?
When you ultimately can connect to reality on such a level, you begin to realize you can shift reality in the way that suits you.
Today's guest is Bradley McAuley-Kinchin, a world-class spiritual guide, Reiki Master, and co-creator of Attuning, a powerful platform he built with his friend Charlie to help people to completely transform their life from the inside out.
When you're scrolling, that's like you're gambling. ADHD is something that can be cured by one having a detox of certain stimulus.
Through his work, Bradley is teaching people how to radically shift their mind, tap into their true power, and consciously create their dream reality. Not someday, but now.
There are laws that govern life, so if you live by those laws, you will live a good life.
Welcome to Her Way podcast.
Can you share something about yourself? Something that you do for work, maybe the projects you're working on at the moment?
Yeah. So my name is Bradley McAuley-Kinchin. I am the founder of Attuning and Perfected Media. I am currently living in Cambodia, Siem Reap, and I have basically founded Perfected Media and Attuning. They're two different businesses. Perfected Media is something that I created with my friend back in COVID, and Perfected Media essentially is a digital marketing agency, but now we've transitioned into more digital development and AI solutions, and we're currently working with businesses to basically implement AI into their businesses. So it's super cutting edge what's happening with our business at the moment, but as well we are wanting to develop businesses more and be ready for the future, and basically work with them on such a level where they can keep up to date with current trends with technology, and also with our experience in technology we can absolutely enhance people's businesses to basically be able to perform better and save them time, increase their efficiency, and make them ready for business ultimately. And then the Attuning is basically a spiritual mentoring platform. So it was co-created with my best friend, who I also co-founded Perfected Media with, and essentially Attuning is a huge project. It's like one of my soul missions, and ultimately Attuning is something that requires so much dedication on one's behalf, like if they were to dedicate themselves to being religious. But we're not religious in the sense of what we're teaching. Our teachings are ultimately universal, and essentially what it is a spiritual conscious platform, and we've co-created this to basically promote and channel wisdom to people all over the world, as we believe that there is so much that we know that would be of great benefit to humankind in the way of understanding universal beliefs and understandings about ultimately the universe that we live in. It sounds a bit woo-woo, sounds a bit out there, but ultimately it can be really grounded down into knowing that there are actually fundamental principles and laws that govern the nature of reality as a whole. Reality meaning that the life that we live is essentially a reality. It's a reality that we are co-creating. And there are reality streams that ultimately, we're really diving deep into this show, right? All right, cool. All right, so in life, we have been, science has taught us to believe that there are, the space and time is in my perspective, is quite a limited belief that science teaches in regards to space and regards to the universe. And there's actually more information coming out now regarding spirituality, but also how connected we are on a universal level, on a worldly level. So there's lots of incredible people coming out in the world that are sharing different insights and wisdom regarding ancient cultures and how they knew a lot of information. And this is to do with the connectedness to each other, the connectedness to God, the connectedness to nature, the connectedness to animals, life, and all life forms in general. And actually, the wisdom is so deep, is so incredible, when you begin to question life on such a level, from this perspective that actually led me onto this journey, was literally just questioning the life that I'm living. Back home, I'm from outside London in a place called Epsom, Surrey. And ultimately, I went through a very privileged background. I went through a lovely upbringing in a nice family home, close to nature. And I went through a Catholic background. I went through a primary and secondary school that was Catholic, and ultimately I led. After leaving school, I questioned life. I was like, I'm confused. I don't really know what I want to do in life. I don't really want to go to university. University's not calling me. And as well, I was delving into different conspiracies about the world, and also like understanding more about spiritual texts and ancient cultures. And this led me to really question things on such a level when I would be out on walks with myself, with my friends. And this led me to really go through a profound spiritual realization, like an awakening. And I've ever been since on this awakening where I've been ultimately being guided, which I believe from a higher intelligence. And this higher intelligence has ultimately made me so deeply aware of like myself on a spiritual level that it's like, okay, this, you can't really avoid this anymore. Like, it is so profound and so real to me that I really believe that through me understanding this more and having questions answered ultimately in my life, how I began to realize that actually this is ever real than ever. Like the connectedness to God, the connectedness to source, which is in my opinion God. And then coming from source, God is polarity, and the duality is ultimately what we're seeing as life on Earth and life in the lower planes of existence. And so using these certain terminologies and certain understandings like existence, consciousness, parallel realities, psychic abilities, astral projection, divination, all of these types of words are quite unheard of in our world today, in our modern world, in the world that is known of in religion, and ultimately known of in science as well, and in mainstream culture. These topics aren't talked about, which I believe is why we are seeing certain problems in our world. And so I really believe that there is so much that I'm doing, building and co-creating Attuning, that can really empower one to ultimately be remembering of their innate connection to source, innate connection to it all, and actually tapping into this state of awareness that allows one to really like connect to energy, and knowing that life is all energy, life is all frequencies and vibrations. And when you begin to tap into that on such a fundamental level, like on such a level where it becomes just part of you, you realize that you can attune, meaning like a dial on a radio. You can tune into different radio stations, and ultimately that's like tuning into different reality streams. And reality streams meaning that you're like, the lens that you perceive life is particularly a reality stream that you're tuning into right now. So the reality stream that I'm tuning into now with you, Victoria, is of creating a podcast with you, and ultimately like that is a reality stream that I'm tuning into. And as well, we can choose what reality streams we tune into, and there is a higher self that we can ultimately align to. And when you connect to your higher self, which takes process, it takes a long process, it takes a process that is ultimately of strengthening, of remembering, of deep contemplation, deep reflection. You can really connect to a state where you become more aligned. And being aligned is ultimately where you find that connection to source, intelligence, so true, so real. And that is ultimately, in a nutshell, like the attuning understanding the philosophy about what we're doing. It's like aligning people to their higher self so they can be more aligned in life, so that they can live with purpose, live with fulfillment, and they can ultimately remember not just their human connection to life, but their beingness, their ultimate beingness, their ultimate state of energy and vibration that ultimately allows them to be multidimensional. And that is like being multidimensional may seem quite woo-woo to your audience, but it's something that is being understood more and more, that people delve into, let's say, meditation, could even say plant medicines, like when people go into different experiences. Breath work is a great way to delve into like different states of consciousness. And I've even heard people like have astral projection experiences in breath work, and even plant medicines and meditation, and also lucid dreaming as well, is a big part of understanding, okay, I'm more than this human body. I can actually do more in this life. And to know that this life now is infinite as we speak. And it's not just limited to the time that you're spent being on Earth. And it's often taught within ancient cultures that life, that the study of death is like a practice, is this thing that they dedicate their life to, because they know how important it is to remember your infinite state of freedom, ultimately. So it's quite a deep topic, a deep vocation, I would say, to be able to be a guide, to be able to be a mentor. But my focus currently is building out Perfected Media so that it can be a way in which I fund the Attuning platform to be able to then be the best resource for people to ultimately connect to this wisdom.
Wow, there was a lot. Well, I have a couple of questions about the platform. You said that the platform is basically about like universal laws that are not really applied to any specific like religion or something. And as someone Christian, as someone religious, can anybody like basically tune in and watch your videos and be part of the platform and like still get something useful for themselves without contradicting like and having this inner conflict between their religion and what you teach? Or there's only like specific target audience that you have, and like do you even welcome everybody, or you have like some sort of filter, you know what I mean, for the community?
Ultimately, the Attuning platform is open to everyone from any background, any belief, because it's things that can be understood by anyone, because it can be all grounded in also like in a scientific perspective as well. It can be understood because more and more science is coming out regarding like how like consciousness is real, dark matter is real, and the space between us is real. Like it's something, you know, and as well with different religions around the world, like it's all part of one, you know, it's all part of the one God. It's all part of the creation of it all. So the perspective that we're aligning to is a very high perspective. It's very universal. Like anyone from any background, from any belief, from any perspective can integrate and apply the attuning wisdom to their life, because it is connected to us all. It's to remember that we all are connected, that we all are one, and that interconnectedness is innate within nature. You know, it goes that far, like, because it's ultimately understanding the interconnectedness of all life forms, not just earthly life forms, like the multidimensional beings that coexist with us. And that might seem out there for you, but generally, like, it is ever real than ever, because like even within, like, if you look at like the Buddhist cultures, they have different or like the Hindu cultures, they have like different deities, and like they're ever real than ever within their beliefs, but they are different beings that don't they coexist with us. Let's say they're like a thought form that someone's created down the line of their story. And then to even believe about Jesus being a being that exists with us, but he's not actually here with us. But in a way, Yeshua is a being that has walked among us before, from my understanding anyway, I'm only talking from my understanding and from what I know of, but I believe that Yeshua, Jesus, was someone who walked among us before, and he is someone that ultimately is ultimately embodying Christ consciousness. And this is something that I align with as well. Christ consciousness is something that is higher intelligence, is the state of intelligence where you are connected to the divine, like the state of God's source. But my mentor, my guide, Charlie, who's a big part of the Attuning platform, part of the creation of the Attuning platform, who I work with, also with Perfecta Media. And he often reminds me that we are not affiliating to any symbols, any sigils, any labels. It essentially is the attuning philosophy is that we don't assign ourselves any symbols, any sigils. And so ultimately it's wisdom that can be applied to your life because it is so real to you, like it is innately part of you. Like we're not, we don't want to be seemingly woo-woo with certain words and meanings and labels that have been thrown about within different spiritual communities and within the world that we see today in the New Age spirituality movement. And I've been a big part of that. I've been a part of that spiritual movement with connecting to also indigenous cultures in South America. And I was connected to, or I am still connected to people within Acre, Brazil, like the Yawanao tribe, the Hunakun tribe, the Nokikoi tribe. And I also have been connected with different tribes also from Colombia and also like the Patasho tribes. I also helped with fundraisers in the UK and also helped run fundraisers also in Netherlands and Amsterdam. And so I've been a big part of like helping those indigenous people share their wisdom to the masses on some level. And so when I have been working with ayahuasca and the different plant medicines that exist within that realm, I also was working with my guides. I was working with my mentor, and I was being guided to understand things because it was very deep study. It was a very deep work because ayahuasca isn't. It's something that you have to come with an intention with, and like it's something that it's not something to be messed with. It's a very powerful medicine, and it's very deep, and it can involve a deep process. If you aren't prepared for it, it can be scary. And so I was very guided to work with it in South America, and I had some of the most transformational ceremonies that really helped me understand myself, my life, the world that we live in, the connectedness to nature. And this ultimately inspired me more to do the work that I'm doing with Attuning, with my best friend. And it ultimately has been such a blessing for me for what I've done and who I've connected to on my spiritual journey. I've connected with some incredible souls, and souls that are communicating more to the masses about consciousness, about the connectedness to us all, nature, intelligence, and also like holistic movement practices, and also holistic medicines and ways in which we can become ever connected to our bodies, because I believe there are lots of different toxins that are within our environment. And so we must be mindful about like the water we drink, the food we eat, the quality of the foods we eat, and also like the products that we put on our skin, and knowing that like less is more, like you don't actually need much, and actually you're better off not using sunscreen, that kind of thing. Like you're actually better off like just using a bit of oil or something like that, and knowing that your body is incredibly intelligent. And these are the things that we're beginning to teach people, to know that there are so many advanced practices that one can delve into and begin to understand when they begin to be in a state of humility and in a state of surrender. That this is all, like, for example, one of the topics that we go into within the Attuning platform is delving into like advanced mudras, advanced like hand movements. And so this is something that was discovered by my best friend, my mentor, and within like in like the Ayurvedic and within India, the idea of mudras is a common thing. So like doing certain mudras like this is called a mudra, okay? And they have like different hand positions, right? And so that is good on some level. It can help you, okay, if you are to do this within your practice. Let's say you are to do yoga or breath work or meditation. However, we've connected to, or my friends connected to this intelligence where you can actually do dynamic mudras connecting to the points of your hands. And this is something that we teach within the platform, and it is really cutting edge knowledge, cutting edge wisdom, because it allows one to really connect to every part of their body. Like knowing that your hands are like remote controls to your whole body. And this is like incredible wisdom that we believe is going to attract a lot of people who are curious to ultimately self-healing and deeper inner understanding of themselves. And we believe that once people begin to start connecting to this intelligence of knowing that, like, okay, our hands are actually remote controls that can be beneficial to healing the body, to removing blockages in the body that are, like, blockages are stagnation in the body, okay? And when we begin to be more connected to the body, we can really move the energy, and ultimately blockages are where then chronic pain comes from, and then where chronic pain leads to then cancer, and then cancer then leads to death. So it's to eliminate the blockages so that the body can flow more effectively and efficiently, and allow for the ultimately the energy throughout the body to flow more. So we go to deep into understanding about things. But to answer your question, yes, we're open to everyone.
Yeah, that's interesting because I do feel like at some point the knowledge that you're sharing is pretty much universal and it is connected to many religions, but there are a lot of like differences in like religions, and even though we do speak about the same thing and we do express pretty much the same ideas, the language that we use is usually different. So that's why I was like, how do you deal with this in the community? Do you like use specific language, or do you kind of like being careful with the terms, or do you explain to people that, okay, if you come here, you should be open-minded? Because, for example, I am speaking from the consumer perspective, right? Like, I am interested pretty much in what you do, and I do agree with so many things on different levels with you. I just, in my head, I immediately like change the terms when you speak about something to my own kind of like understanding of things from a Christian perspective. But I'm like, okay, if I turn on the videos and I consume the content that you create, if let's say I will have questions or I will have some type of different ideas that I would love to ask about, but I'm not sure about the terms or how I should communicate, or how would you respond? Like, what would you say to people like me who are like, I want to try, I want to get into this. Maybe I want to just like, for my own curiosity, explore. But who are afraid in a way get into this type of conversation, because I do feel like in a spiritual community especially, and in religious community, the conversation is always to some extent is not really like peaceful. There's always like a lot of different people with a lot of different ideas or different perception, because what is spirituality, right? It's pretty much like individual thing. And because everyone has different perspectives, it's usually like creating some tension and conflict within the community itself. So I'm curious about how you deal with this.
First of all, I would say start where you are and embrace who you are now, and show up as you are, like, and you're welcome as you are. So that for me is a really powerful thing to remember, because we might not feel content with who we are right now, and we might not feel ready or prepared, and it's like, just be who you are. You know, you're ready right now as you are, Victoria, right now. You know, as I am Bradley right now, even like doing this podcast, I'm ready as I am right now to do this podcast, and so are you. So it's in that way. And so there are things that take time and take a lot of understanding and contemplation, but there are a lot of the thing is, language as a whole on Earth is interesting because it can be limiting on some level. We are innately psychic beings, and that, I mean, we can be able to communicate by not using words, by just using our mind to connect with each other. For example, the way in which animals communicate to us. They can't talk to us, but they can show through actions. But it goes deeper than that. It's like to be able to connect with one on such a level where you can actually talk to each other without using your mouth. And within our world, that's demonized. I mean, I've come from a culture in the UK where they think that it's called like being schizophrenic, or mental health labels it on such a level where it seems a bit psycho. But it's so real than ever that like the way in which you communicate to each other is like like everything is psychic, everything is mental. So like on such a level that the life that we live right now, it is a mental experience. I mean, that might sound crazy, but like it is a mental experience. Like it's all mindset, okay? And the psychicness is that ability to be able to know that it's a mental experience that we're experiencing, and to know that life is like being able to, you can co-create your experience from the place that you are in right now. And so we know that you have to read between the lines, between different things. Like within, let's say if you are to read the Bible, for example, the actual essence might not necessarily be in the words, and it's only in the spaces between the words. Do you understand what I mean by that? Like, because that's the connectedness to God. Because it's not like you could be like an incredible bookworm. You can be someone who reads books all day, every day, but without like it connecting to experience itself, it's nothing. And it's the same applies with like our work. Like you have to go away and reflect and contemplate on certain things, because that's the only way you can integrate. And integration is a huge component to spiritual study, and even in life in general, because it's a balance. You can be actively working on something, but without integration, you can't then actually integrate it. It'll be no benefit to you. And so I've had real world experience of this within my studies, within like even working deeply with like the plant medicines within ayahuasca, for example. And like there's been times where even I've become like relying on just doing ceremonies, and then it became actually like a sort of like form of addiction on some level. But it was teaching me that, okay, Bradley, you need to balance it with not doing it, and actually then remembering and integrating everything that happened in those experiences, so that you can go through life with a solid understanding of like, okay, these experiences were beneficial to you, but now how can you like walk through life with the knowing that they've been of benefit to you? Do you understand what I mean by that? And it's the same for like with the work that we're doing. Is like we welcome people from any background, any belief, and we want people to show up as they are, so they know who they are. And then the work within the platform, like you can start anywhere, because a lot of the topics that we talk about are themes that everyone experiences on some level. Like one of the topics is fear. So if, let's say, you started on fear, you can listen to that and you'll be able to connect with at least one thing, like at least one section of that video you'll be able to connect with. And that might be the realization that you need on that one particular day, on that one particular moment. And then you can exit out of the app, out of the platform, and you'll be like, okay, that's all I need to know for today, and I'm going to walk through life. And it's like, it's often a belief as well, it's like, take what you need and disregard the rest. So that is like the same applies with the platform. It's like the platform has so much information so far, like from what we've uploaded. There's 70 episodes. And so we have so much information that is already accessible to people, and we're constantly refining it, and we want to update it more and more. And there's so much more content to release. We even are planning a book right now to release, but we're just waiting on the demand of people to come into the Attuning platform. But we know that it's coming about, and we're doing things, as well as also working on raising funds to then bring this platform about. But it is happening. It's on the horizons.
One of the things that you mentioned you had as an experience with like the ceremonies and all of that, and how sometimes even like the good things that we do can become addictive. And I feel like that's kind of the point, as I can see, of your platform is basically teach people how to not depend on anything basically except the spiritual part of things, right? Because like any
Absolutely.
type of experience, any type of person, any type of job, anything that we have, especially in the material reality, can be gone. Anything can be taken away from you.
Absolutely.
But if you have a strong foundation, which is like in my worldview is like foundation built on God. If I
Hmm.
build my life on God and my connection with Him, you're literally unstoppable in every single way. You want to be successful. I don't know. You want to have healthy relationship. You want to make money, whatever it might be. You just need to learn how to not depend on anything else outside of this spiritual basics. So that's kind of one of the things I thought about. Is like not getting attached or addicted, as you
Yeah.
use addicted, to
Yeah.
anything around you, even if it's good for you. Based on this idea, I wanted to see if that's one of the biggest, probably like messages you're trying to spread with your platform. Is that what people can come for, right? Like to get this foundation for themselves and then to like apply it to whatever goals or whatever missions
Absolutely.
you have in life, right? Or is there anything else that people can expect from you, from the platform, from the content? Because, like that's my understanding from what you spoke about, but maybe there's something deeper as a mission.
Yeah, I connect so much with what you're sharing because it's so true. So, for example, within the app, there is this AI which is called Lucia, and Lucia was created back in 2022 when ChatGPT was emerging in mainstream culture, and the idea was for of my friend and I to introduce an AI that can be a spiritual companion to one asking questions about spirituality on a level that is connected to universal wisdom. And so we created it based on content that we've written that is ultimately the Attuning foundation. And this is content that has been written over a decade now. And so this wisdom ultimately is within the AI, but we would advise people who were to use the app is that it's a tool. It's a tool to help you connect deeper with yourselves, and you don't necessarily need it. It's only there if you like would like that support, but we would advise that you actually are better off without it, and you can connect to the wisdom yourself. But it's there as a way of support, and the questions are so like the questions that it can answer are so deep, and this is why we love this AI and we wanted to introduce it to the platform as well, because we thought it's a really great way in which, let's say someone asks questions about the specific attuning videos and content, they could actually have a 24/7 support within the app to basically ask, like they could ask questions to it, and it will answer the questions in such a deep and complex way. And it's also easily understandable as well. Like the way in which we like created the algorithm for the AI has been in such a way that you can understand it as well. It's all related to the content, and you can also ask it to like simplify it as well based on the coding that we've done for it. And so what I'm sharing about like the addictive parts is we even like talk about balance. Balance is essential within every part of our lives. And so what we've seen in our world is like there's a lot of people having different symptoms of, let's say, ADHD and addictive patterns, and all of these stem from like the ADHD in particular stems from like people's overconsumption of stimulation from like sugar, from like phones, and different technologies can actually simulate ADHD to come about more and more. And people think it's something that, because we're seeing it more and more emerge in our world, from my understanding, from speaking to different mentors and like spiritual guides, and also people that really know their stuff within like this mental health awareness topic, ADHD is something that like can be cured by one having a detox of certain stimulus. And this is how one ultimately can actually cure ADHD, which is quite an interesting perspective. And it doesn't have to be confused. It doesn't have, like a lot of the understandings that we teach people, often people confuse them in many ways. And ultimately it can be really simplified And this is why we brought about this platform, because we can really get to the point of things, and we can really make sense of things and make people like realize things that often can be lost within stories, can be lost within different ways of like conversation, because a lot of the way in which information was shared before were around like campfires. Like back in our history, a lot of the information was shared within campfires, and so now information has been easily accessible, and we really believe that what we're creating with the Attuning platform is something that is really going to change people's lives. It's going to really, especially when people begin to realize the potency behind the wisdom that Attuning is. I really believe that it's going to change people's lives, but it's ever emerging. It's not just me that's doing this. I really believe that from what I've understood, there are lots of different people that I've met are understanding things on more of a universal level as well. They're learning from different spiritual mentors, different leaders within our world. And I'm really happy to see that there's lots of different books coming about that are connecting dots to people's lives, and that I am really happy about, because that's the interconnectedness of life. To see that like Attuning just isn't the one platform that one should subscribe to, that there's also lots of other people that are doing great work on earth, and we would love to partner with these people like that I'm seeing doing great work on earth. And this is ultimately the long-term vision of Attuning, is to actually partner with different speakers, different thought leaders, to be able to be a platform that ultimately is based on the energy of attuning you to your highest state of being, highest state of flow, highest state of knowing, ultimately. Because we've got into this interesting pattern in life where we think too much and we flow less. And it's quite an interesting thing, because it's one that I've been embodying more about flowing. And even like I'm an active amateur football player here in Cambodia, and I've been applying more and more of my understandings about flow state and this ability to just be in the moment. And even back home at my local health club, I would even be speaking with Chelsea Football Club players, some of the academy players, and talking about how they can be in more of the flow state. And I've even met other different athletes as well at my local gym. And they're really inspired by what I was talking about, the flow state, talking about understandings about how they can actually be more knowing about their reality, how they can actually feel reality more so, how can they be more present to the reality that they're living in, and to ultimately then be more grounded. Because when you ultimately can connect to reality on such a level, you begin to realize you can shift reality in the way that suits you. And that's how you can then become more of like a magician in life. But it's less to be understanding that you can be a magician. It's like, how can you ultimately understand life on such a level where you can influence life with your energy. For example, let's say we talk about football. Like, why does Messi, when he was in his prime, have such an influence on the game that he plays? Like, for example, when he won the World Cup. It was destined for him to win the World Cup. And the way he did win it, like, couldn't have been any better. And it was like, wow, like, how did that happen? And it's because he has connected on some level to this intelligence, this knowingness. He was going to win that game. He was going to win that final, and he was going to become the world's best player. And we see this often within like some of the greatest athletes, and they've understood it more from an understanding of mindset. But how we are connecting to people is not just based on like understanding from football, but it's just understanding on a level, on a human being level, on a soul level. How can one connect to an intelligence where you can walk through life with a swing in your step, with the ultimate knowing of like who you are, ultimate confidence, and it's how you can really embody a state of knowingness that is so potent that can be felt without you needing to speak any words. And that's ultimately connecting to the state which is what I'm understanding more as enlightenment. And everyone can be enlightened when they begin to understand laws and principles that ultimately are are universal. And this is ultimately the intelligence that I'm connecting to.
Do you think being enlightened is the goal for you and for people in your community? Is that the goal that you are kind of going after? Is that the highest state of being that you're trying to achieve? Or is there like no goal in a way, and what you're trying to do is basically live life in the present moment the way it is? I'm just curious because whenever I speak with spiritual people, they are to some extent in a good way, but not here in a way, and they don't live by the same rules as like all of us usually live. So like I'm always curious, do you have like a goal? Is there like a goal that you're trying to achieve, like fundamental goal in life or a purpose in life? Or is it like the goal itself is to live life and experience it on a deeper level? Or because as someone who is very ambitious, who is religious, in religion we to some extent do have like a goal, right? To get into heaven, follow the rules in a way, and to serve God as much as you can. So you do kind of, it's like a game, you do have rules.
Yeah.
As well as in real life, right? In your career, everywhere, you do have some type of end goal. Like an example with athletes, right? They want to go to Olympics. There is the end goal, even though they love the process of like training and getting there. Still, I'm curious, what about spirituality? Because so many people that I talk to, spiritual people, they do have different answers. And I do think it depends on like each person, but I'm curious about your platform or you specifically, because you do promote specific ideas and you do have a mission, as you said, but like you said the word being enlightened, and I'm curious, really curious. Is that the end goal, or is it just like the process? You know
Yeah,
what I'm
it's a
trying to say?
process. It's a process of
Yeah.
understanding within linear time. But in non-linear time, which is essentially the 0 point, the no time, which is ultimately where our soul resides, it's a remembrance. And it may seem as like a process of time, right? In what we're talking about here. But in the state that one is enlightened is a state of no time. It's a state of 0 point, which is like it's space, like in many ways, in many angles, in many dimensions, but ultimately it's a state of like true connectedness to it all. And that is ultimately my understanding of enlightenment and what I continue to understand, because it's not like you're not going anywhere. There's no beginning or ending. It just is. And that, in my understanding, is God. That is the infinite state of life, remembrance. Does that make sense?
It does, but okay, I have a question based on that. Just going deeper into reflection. You said that, right, at some point, like that's the state of God, that's the state of being enlightened. But speaking about God, who is God? What is God for you in a way? Is it like just this state of being, or is it a being in a way, or you are God, or what kind of belief is there? Because I kind of do get the whole like idea that is like, oh, it's space, it's a being, it's all of that, but it's like, is there a simplified version of what you believe God is? Because it's so like here and there, and it's like big, and it's like not really like structured idea, that I'm not really getting what exactly you believe. Because you do say that God is, which is like, it's a complex question in a way, but you do believe that God is sort of union, right? It's sort of energy, but like, what is God exactly? Because everybody has a personal, I think, view of it, but if God is like a being in a way, who controls reality at the end of the day? Is it like that being, or is it you, or is it?
Well, it's an infinite. So in my understanding, God is an infinite construct, meaning that God, like the universe as we coexist in, creation as a whole, is ultimately God. Like everything that resides within creation is God. Okay, everything that resides within our lives is integrally part of God. So that's why we teach that we are innately part of God. You know, we can be channels of God, But the knowing that there are different planes of existence, there are different dimensions that one can be able to achieve and tap into. Yeah, say I stack it like this, but ultimately it's like it's everywhere. It's like it's not like it's the levels of understanding from what we can understand is like from the mind. Okay, I have to really like preface this knowing that like the mind can only comprehend so much, but when we begin to connect to the soul, when we begin to connect to a higher plane of existence and connect to this intelligence that God is, let's say, everything and like anything, like is God, okay? That is connecting to like a state that is so vast that is to know that like God is very, there is so much, okay, that the thing is the comprehension of God is a powerful thing, okay? And why we teach attuning is because God is everything. It's not just a being. It's not like that man in the sky, okay, as taught within Christianity and other religions, okay? God is ultimately like we are part of God. God is the interconnectedness of, let's say, like Earth as a being, like, which is like the interconnectedness, the web of souls and beings and nature and everything that exists on Earth is that being, all right? And out, like, let's say we scale more to knowing that like space and time as we know it is a being as well. And then we scale even more to know that there's different dimensions that exist within the universe. That is itself a being as well. But that being is all integrally connected to each other. And so that we all are reflections of one another. We all are like our own state of being as well. But to know this is then when you can connect to an understanding that is like, is so powerful, because then it's like, okay, you are then integrally part of God, and you like can embody its essence. But it's interesting to have that in like perspective, because it's like it often can be seen as like a man in the sky, but its essence is universal, as one. Okay, and so yeah, it's a very powerful understanding when you begin to realize that it's not just a man in the sky, that it's just a being, that you exist, and you are that as well. Do you understand what I mean? It's interesting I said he there, so I'll skip that out.
Yeah. I think it's because in society we're usually programmed in a way to think like it's a man in the sky and it's like automatically like, oh, he, which is interesting. But okay, why am I asking this? Because I did a lot of research on this type of belief, and what I was always like battling with in the sense of like questions and this understanding of what God is that if there's no eternal being in a way that is like still higher than us, who controls the reality? Where does
I
suffering
understand what
come
you
from?
mean.
Is it our own choice or not? Or like at the end of the day, we don't control everything. We don't control other people. We don't control so many things. So it's like if you are part of God and you are some type of version of God, as a lot of spiritual people think, why can't you control the reality to that extent where you can control the circumstances, control the things around you, control the suffering that is happening, you know? It's like what made me believe in God is that I see that I'm such a little like piece of dust compared to the rest of the universe, and that I definitely don't control so many things. I can barely control myself, you know? That like why would I like have any type of divine nature in a way. We all are kind of right connected to the source. That's true, but we are not the source itself because we're not as powerful. And I was like, okay, then as a conclusion, there should be someone or something, some type of intelligent being that could create on that level, this reality that we have, this universe that we have, and this being has control over it.
Well, you are that reality. You are that being. So, for example, you are Victoria and I am Bradley that have co-created this podcast that we are speaking of right now. And that is the power that you hold. That is the power that you have done to create and control your reality on such a level where you have created this podcast and I have taken part in this podcast. We have co-created this podcast to take place. So it's to understand that you have a power already. It's not to negate that and neglect that part of you. And it's to realize more that you have control of your reality on such a level that you, based on your thoughts, based on your beliefs, you change your reality. Because it becomes a dream then. Life is a dream. It becomes a dream, but it's ultimately understand. And there are some things that you've asked me that I can't currently speak of. Like, for example, in regards to suffering on earth, that is a very complex, and it would require much more time. And these questions, I don't have the answer to. But my understanding more than ever, because I believe in a utopian world. And how I'm creating a utopian world in my life is how I can live more embodiment, live more in alignment to myself. And through doing that, can I then show up to a life where then I can be more of a role model, more of an influence to people in my life. And so that is ultimately from answering your question before, is that's my mission, is believing in a utopian world. And to know that the world that we know of may not be the world that it is real. Because we all, it depends what, this is a very interesting, perspective to think about, okay? And this is one that's only ever emerging recently. And by that I mean is because there are infinite parallel realities to which we can align to. Parallel realities meaning that there are reality streams that we can align to every second, every moment, every micro moment, okay, based on the very thoughts that we have, okay, which is why we need to be mindful, which is ultimately being more conscious. We talk about mindfulness within the platform, to be mindful of all the thoughts that you have so that you can walk through life knowing that you know yourself. Because sometimes we have thoughts and they may not serve us. So it's to be mindful of those thoughts and how we can steer them in a direction that serves us. And by that I mean there are higher intelligent beings that coexist with us that can be guides to us. Like in the case that I've had intervention in my life from what then put me on the journey of spiritual awakening, as well as also meeting elders that know a lot of things about nature, about different plant medicines that exist within our world, and as well as different beings that then coexist with us within the multidimensional universe. There are other beings that reside in, so knowing that, we can surrender to this experience of life, because knowing that we don't need to know, but as well it's good to know that we are integrally part of co-creation. Without you being alive as a soul, the universe would be incomplete. So knowing that you are integrally part of existence, same for me. And that then makes you remembering of how special you are. And when you begin to realize that, to know how special you are, you then are inspired, empowered to then show up in the best way you can. Because ultimately, what we've known within our world and how I've known it within my life is that even I've been a victim of things in my journey, from possibly my upbringing, from society. And so often we can be put down and we can say we're not good enough. And we are guiding people to understand that you are enough as you are right now. And you can realize things and remember things that are so incredible, that are encouraging you and aligning you to believe that you are powerful and that you are intelligent, that you are creative, that you are beautiful. Many things. can be understood when you understand and you have more belief in yourself. And that self-belief is ultimately how you remember yourself. You remember yourself as a human being. And so, yeah, these are understandings that I can understand. But with regards to like suffering, it's such a complex question, but ultimately it can be understood in my perspective from what's coming through now is like suffering is very individual. And if you zoom out on a level that is worldly suffering, then I don't think that serves one fully, because you can only look after yourself, you can only show up for yourself. And when you show up for yourself, then you can know that you are, like, let's say you are living in alignment with your values, with your with the there are laws that govern life. So if you live by those laws, you will live a good life. But suffering is innately part of life. So it's a very interesting one.
It is, and it is getting even deeper, but I really appreciate your perspective though, and that you're sharing it, because I'm just here trying to learn, because again, as a Christian, I have a specific worldview that came from my experience and research. So I'm always like open to new ideas, because I know that if I'm wrong, I always pray about it. I'm like, Jesus, if I'm wrong, allow other people to show me that, because like you never know. And one of the things that you mentioned was very interesting, and I want to dive deeper into this. As someone who is spiritual, and you're pretty much preaching spirituality and mindfulness, and this word in general, mindfulness, is like very, very popular right now. It's getting even more out there, right? And what I think about is, and what I would love to ask, what do you think about therapy? And what do you think about this type of movements that are coming right now, especially like online everywhere? Everybody is like, oh, I'm going to therapy, mindfulness, meditation. And I'm curious about like your perspective on it, because spirituality and science to some extent, or like psychology therapy, it is, I do feel like it's connected, but there are some things that concern me personally with therapy, and I'm not the biggest fan of it.
Yeah.
For so many reasons, but I maybe will go into this later and I will explain my perspective on that. But basically, I'm curious, what do you, as a spiritual person, or as someone who claims to guide people right towards mindfulness, better life, what is your perspective on therapy? Do you feel like it's one of the ways how, as people call the Matrix, is trying to like grab us and program us, or therapy it's actually the thing that is like really interconnected with spirituality and what you should be doing to get your life together in a way?
Yeah, so I actually came across something the other day. It was a video on Instagram of a compilation of a psychiatrist standing outside of a building in New York, and it was saying, how many people have you cured? It was a question to these psychiatrists, how many people have you cured? And they said no one. It's like, okay. And then that was shared by someone who is spiritual, and he's someone who I'm friends with. And I thought it was funny, because from my understanding of therapy, I've had a lot of therapy through working with plant medicines, and actually didn't actually involve anyone else other than myself. So to answer your question, is like, we are our own therapy, we're our own medicine. So I think that is quite an interesting thing, and the also emergence of more information and intelligence coming out about plant medicines and how they are really incredible. I mean, there were people in my ceremonies that just their presence of being there was enough for me to go deeper into myself, to trust myself more, and to be more connected to myself. Like that, I can't not say that, because they were heavily part of my experiences, but a big portion of my experiences were because of me, and because of my willingness to listen to myself, to allow for experiences that are deeply personal to me, that can only be understood by me, about my ancestry, about myself, my life, my current beliefs and thoughts, to reveal itself, and for me to then work through them, to bear witness to them, to then be acknowledging of them. And so what you're saying about therapists is, I think they can be of great benefit to people, and I know some really great therapists that I've met within, let's say, more of the holistic conscious path community. And it's actually something that I was curious to study and to delve more into as a accredited, certified therapist. But I even believe that just being certified and accredited, like I've even met therapists as well that like say they're a therapist, and I'm like, are you sure you're a therapist? Like, because by what you're sharing to me, I'm like, you don't understand things as much as I know of and see things. And that's when I begin to question, okay, then who they learning from, and what gives them, what, by giving them a certification and accreditation, what does that actually give someone, you know? Because a lot of what we see in our world, people that have been given, let's say, a degree or a certificate in our world, are basically put on a pedestal, and they're given this authority that may not actually be right. And so yeah, these have to be questioned, and I love that question that you've asked me, because yeah, my understanding of it is ultimately you are your own medicine, and through consistent practice and belief that you are able to heal yourself is really important. So yeah, this is what I ultimately stand for. And ultimately, I'm a guide more than anything. Like, I'm not perfect, nor is my best friend, and ultimately we're creating this platform to basically be a way in which people can see an alternative perspective to something that they don't necessarily come across in everyday life.
I totally agree, and I would add from my own perspective what I have, like, in a sense of opinion on therapy. I think a lot of people, as you said, claim to be therapists, and they're being put on a pedestal so much that whatever is coming out of their mouth later is being like the Bible in a way. It's like, oh my God, that's the truth. That's what I should be doing. But a lot of us forget that therapists are basically the people who are just asking you, well, at least it's supposed to be like that, asking you the right questions, helping you to go deeper into your own self. But I do see that a lot of people are using therapy as an escape in a way.
Yeah, yeah, I
It's
agree.
like the way to escape the responsibility
Hmm.
for your own life, for your own emotions, and you basically trying to find someone who will solve your problems for you, which is
Hmm.
not gonna work.
No.
So I do think that, and I agree with your opinion that you are your own medicine in a way, and you can handle things on your own, and you're so much stronger, so much wiser than you might realize. What I do think that people don't do enough is they don't sit with themselves enough. They don't maybe meditate, pray, doesn't matter what like you can call it. They don't just know themselves and they escape their own self, you know, and that's why we go to therapy and like, oh, I need someone to solve it. No, you need to sit with yourself because you already have the knowing. You already know what to do. You already know how to solve things. You just don't, you don't want to take this responsibility. You don't want to face it because when you face yourself, you face the answers that are uncomfortable. You face fears that are really uncomfortable, I would say. It's like
Hmm.
terrifying sometimes.
Hmm.
You face even your dreams and your highest potential, which might be terrifying because then you can be like, oh, wait, what am I doing with my life? And it's like uncomfortable. So
So
I do
true.
feel like people go to therapy because even what I've noticed from people that I know that went to therapy, they don't even want to get something from therapy. They just want someone to tell them, you're all right, you're perfect, you're good. And like, that's
Mm.
it. They don't
Mm.
even want the transformation because they don't even have a goal when they go to therapy. So I do feel like the job you're doing with this platform, it's like, wow, because you're spreading the awareness. Your mind is so powerful. Your inner self, you are so powerful in a way, and you can go through things yourself. You can control yourself, what you do, and you don't need like external validation. Again, going back to the thing that we discussed earlier, you don't need outside like foundations. You need only one foundation, and that's it. And I think
Yeah,
that's what we're lacking a lot. And even like the example that you gave with the athletes, as an athlete myself, I remember that the higher you get as an athlete, the more professional you get, the more federation of like sports, the government gives you access to, like, not therapy, but more like meditation practices. They explain to you a lot more how your mindset will influence you. You, like, we had this practice the night before, the week before, even sometimes, the performance. Before we go to sleep, visualize how we're performing and how we're doing things in the correct way, in a smooth way, how we're going with the flow. We would visualize it. They would force us, our coaches, visualize things. They would force us to speak life into ourselves, into each other, and be like, yeah, I can do that. I can do this exercise correctly. I will have the highest possible grade. I will perform well. And they would literally play music and make you do the thing in your head, because what you program here will reflect how you physically move later.
Yeah,
And,
absolutely.
my coach would always used to say, you will only lose if you give up in your head. That's it. Like, once you give up, once you allow this thought, it will shape your performance. And I do think that it is the same in a real life. So it's like,
Very, very
amazing how
interesting.
you are sharing all of this for free, or even for like a little payment, with people, and you're making it more accessible, because, like, people spend thousands of dollars on the same therapy, but they can spend like a couple of, like, hundred or even less on something that will actually transform their life. So,
Absolutely.
like, it's appreciation for what you do, and at the same time, I just feel like it's so important what you're saying.
Absolutely.
And,
Amazing.
like,
Thank
your
you so
opinion on,
much.
yeah, and your opinion on things, like, I really resonate with it.
I love what you just shared then as well, because that is so powerful. And I want to add as well, because I've never really shared publicly about my journey and my struggles of what I've also been on. And so on my journey, I went through a state of being confused as well. Going through this spiritual awakening, did I go and question things to the degree of where I was even fasting so much, and I was putting myself in conditions and environments where it probably wasn't best for me in the long run. And what this then did was then actually make me unstable, because I wasn't balanced. I wasn't balancing the food I was eating. I wasn't balancing what I was doing in my day-to-day life fully, and I was ultimately creating more like chaos than balance. And so I actually went to some extremes where I was then like suicidal twice on my spiritual awakening. And it's really, really interesting that I had these experiences, because these actually like connected me more to life, because I actually realized that I I began to realize things that were known within like mental health more so than ever, and it was really important I learned this and experienced this before going into working with like ayahuasca and then meeting people within holistic therapy journey, and to then hear people have stories about going through like stages of like suicide, and also people that went through also like different states of being, let's say, quote unquote crazy in the eyes of the world that we live in, and their families as well. And that was also like around the time of mental health arising within COVID as well. And like I went through this experience like pretty much by myself. I was grateful I was around my family and they supported me, but these experiences really accelerated my journey to be more grateful for life. And at times I did feel alone. Even though I still have my guide in my life, like there was times where like I actually decided to not listen to him, and that's why I then became like suicidal, because there were testing experiences. They were like, you can either escape life, or you can either full on embrace life and face your fears. And I wasn't fully embracing myself and my fears, and that's why I became suicidal. So it's a very extreme example, an extreme experience to even talk about. And I'm very, very fortunate to be living today to talk about my stories. But I really believe my story is one that will really inspire people, because I have two like physical wounds of what I've experienced. And like, I'm not making this up from my experience as well. And to experience and to see what is happening within hospitals, within psychic wards, which I experienced, I saw firsthand how polarizing it is for one going through something, because like at times they felt that I needed prescription medicine to deal with what I'm going through. And I was like, look, I don't need any of this. You know, I'm aware of what I did and what I'm going through. And in the end, like, the only way I could then leave the hospital was like, I had to say that I had to agree to then take these prescription medicines that I then was like, I just threw away when I got home. Like, I didn't need them. And I knew that I just needed myself. I needed to realize that what I did was you know, life-threatening, and like, okay, I've done it twice, but you know, these things were deep trauma, deep fears that I was working through, to then face reality to the point that I have, especially then doing now 60 ayahuasca ceremonies after being suicidal twice, and after the second experience was when I first then went to my first retreat. That was, yeah, like a really profound experience. And then the experience is having 60 ayahuasca ceremonies in the last 3 years. I have like faced some of the darkest and deepest parts of myself, and really shown light to these parts of myself, and really transformed on such a level where I continue to integrate and continue to remember as well in my life. And so I share this because I see how demonized one thinking outside of the box that is conditioned one to understand from a very young age in our world, in the way in which one is raised, and one is schooled, and society essentially puts one into a box. And so ultimately, this is why we want to bring this platform more publicly to people on such a level that allows for them to connect to this wisdom, because we really believe that what we've got here to be easy accessible to people can really change people's lives, and can actually make people begin to create change on such a level that is so profound within their lives, within their families' lives, within each other's lives. And we also want to foster more of a global community of people. I'm also grateful for actually connecting to a really beautiful spiritual conscious community of different festival organizers. There's some festivals that I'm connected to, like Medicine Festival and Calibri Spirit, and they're just some of the names to talk about, and how they're doing like more thought leaders conferences, and also beautiful natural performing musicians. And I feel like a lot of this is coming more about with people understanding that, okay, mainstream things may be toxic to us on some level, and so we must balance it. We must understand that, okay, there are some things that we possibly would be wise to ignore, and to know that there are certain things that should be avoided, and we should see them as more distractions, if anything, and actually how we can then connect more to ourselves. And ultimately, one of the biggest things that I did and was taught to me when I went through what I went through was to actually do nothing and walk in nature. And that was the one, just to walk in nature by myself, even at times barefoot. And doing that was such a healing experience, because you'll find that there are things, nature will show you things, will help you connect to yourself, will help you will see there's such innocence in nature as well. Like, you could probably see, like, depends where you are, but as well, that like what I was seeing within my local forest was like, it was so enlightening to be by myself in the forest at times at night, by myself walking. And what that was doing was allowing me to really be at peace with myself, and to be held by nature, to be held by the purity that nature is. and to be a reminder of myself. And that to me was a very healing experience. And when I speaking to people that I've met on my journey, and they say like, oh, I feel like I have ADHD. I've been recently diagnosed with having ADHD, and I feel just like overwhelmed with life. And I'm like, yeah, when was the last time you went on a walk in nature? And they go like, yeah. So these things is like, they are there for us. Nature is there for us. We often can forget that when we're living in the city, how there's lots of concrete everywhere, live inside our homes with the blue light, artificial light. How about get outside in the morning, early morning if so, and be able to walk outside in nature and be able to put your bare feet on the ground, and just learn how to walk barefoot in nature. You can do that, and it's wise to do that, because you'll find that actually the Earth's electrical energy will recycle your energy that is feeling dense. And it's an interesting thing, and I've done it many times, and I found profound benefit from it. And that was one of the most healing experiences I've gained from my understanding of being able to heal myself, is just taking walks in nature. And walking is such a great meditation experience anyway. If one finds sitting meditating a challenging experience, try walking with no headphones, no phone near you, and just walk in nature with no goal of where you're going. And also, if you are to walk the same path every day, go a different way, and just do something different. Do something that you wouldn't ever do. That's what I would recommend. And I was so grateful I was living near a forest that had so many different paths that I could walk, that I would every day go somewhere different. And that's what I found quite beautiful. And I'm very fortunate to have that literally on my doorstep back home.
So beautiful. And I have a forest next to me too. And like whenever I feel bad, especially in summer, when I have a sunlight, it's like the most healing experience. Or like hugging a tree. It might sound so weird, but
Yeah, yeah.
hugging a tree, it is something else. Like you just feel like the energy, negative energy going outside of you. And like it's just something magical. Yeah, I do think it's also going back to what I said before. It's like a lot of people escape into like therapy, social media, so many things. They escape their problems and their fears, and they're not facing it, but they're going and like trying to find some type of distraction from their own
Yeah,
thoughts, instead of going and actually sitting with your fears, or walking, or
yeah,
like
yeah,
allowing yourself to face it. Because if you don't face it, it will always show up later, but it's gonna be so much heavier. And that's how I think depression and suicidal thoughts, how it's coming to life. It's just like you basically ignoring your own self, your own emotions, your own thoughts for that long, that it's like one day is just like gonna blow up. And it's gonna be not really healthy. So you also mentioned distractions and like things that you should avoid
yeah,
100% that
yeah.
are extreme. I kind of get what you're saying, but I would really want to dive deeper into this, because I do feel like
Okay.
it's connected to the whole story that you had about like going into nature, finally connecting with yourself, facing your fears, as you use the term, and then getting better, and also distractions, right? Like you blend it all together, and I'm curious, what are the things that you feel like are mainstream, as some people call the matrix, and how you can like get out of it.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, I want to touch on more of the food aspect. I feel like there are a lot of things like I grew up eating sweets, and sugar is a big thing that like can make one unstable. And as a kid growing up eating sweets, I mean, it's a nicety to have, but like living here now in Cambodia, I've began to realize that there's a lot of natural, like really nice sweets that we can eat. Like I say sweets, fruits. Like fruits are amazing, and I've begun to love fruits. I don't eat sweets anymore as I know it, like candy. I eat chocolate, but it's more dark chocolate. Anyway, I won't go too much in detail. But then also like, yeah, fruits are amazing. When you should eat more fruit, and you can't eat. Like there's a saying that there's you can't overeat on fruit, but you can overeat on sweets. You know, it's the kind of thing like that. It's like you will know if you had too much fruit, and so like just like remember that. And about like consuming social media. Social media is a big one because like people would go to bed on their phone, wake up on their phone, throughout the day go on their phone, so they're constantly consuming. If that's what they're doing, they could be creating as well. You know, there's a polarity to that. So it's good to be mindful about what you're doing and how beneficial it is, especially when the way phones are now like designed. When you're scrolling, that's like you're gambling. Like it's that same idea. That's how it's been created. It's like you're scrolling. It's like, okay, you're gambling. It's like you're in a casino. You're constantly scrolling, constantly gambling. It's like you're giving away your time, and that's why they're free. So yeah, very interesting, that idea. But in regards to like distractions, I would even go to the lengths of like the music you listen to, the things that you dedicate your time to. You've got to be super careful. Like it's something that I'm constantly reminding myself of, and I would know if I've consumed something. Let's say if it's music. As an aspiring musician, I often listen to music that's more mainstream, as well as also I have such an eclectic taste that I can listen to mainstream and I can listen to other alternative natural music as well. And at times I found a lot of peace just listening to just like binaural beats, and they've been really beneficial to me. And I would recommend that for anyone working or anyone meditating. Let's say if they're making food, maybe experiment with trying using binaural beats, which essentially are like tones, and there are different tones. Like 432 hertz is a really good tone like to listen to, and there's also different tones that one can use. And there's also this really interesting tool that's come about called brain.fm, and that's something that's being used more in the entrepreneurial space and the creative space, because it's a great, I've used it, I've tested it out, and I've actually really benefited from it, because it's like, it's super dynamic the way the tones are, and the way the music is on the platform, instead of if you are to just load up a playlist on Spotify. So I see the benefit of both as well. But if you're looking for more of a free version, just go on like YouTube and type in binaural beats or 432 hertz meditation music, and then you'll go into such a deep dive into those. There's so many, and I would recommend that for meditating, as it's like it creates a tone, it creates a foundational frequency that I actually used when I was beginning to meditate and beginning to learn about deep astral projection techniques. And these are things that when you begin to understand, that can be like, they're not, you don't necessarily need them, but it can tune you into that frequency that is innately part of life. Because when you actually tune into life, you'll feel that there's actually a fundamental frequency in life as well. There's like the whole space that we live in, like there's a frequency that exists, and you can begin to tap into that the more you also listen to these music, and they can help you like tune into that like flowiness of energy that exists within our lives. But distraction is one of those things that, like, we have to be very careful what we label distractions, because often things can be seen as a distraction, but actually they could be of great benefit to us. So, I mean, for social media, the algorithm is getting ever more clever, that you can use social media as a way to like learn something that might be of great use to you. Like I come across YouTube videos all the time that have been really, necessary to my life in that moment. So I'm grateful for that and how the algorithm does that. But distractions, we have to be very careful, and especially a life away from technology. I would even say technology as a whole can be seen as a way to be like, we can balance life away from technology as well. So it's good to balance technology and also your life, and to not just live on technology, which often is the case now. I was actually talking to someone the other day about how the availability of technology causes us to actually sit less with ourselves, because when you have something that's right in front of you, you can quickly go to Google, you can quickly go to like YouTube, or type it in online and try to find a solution to what you're going through. But actually, like, the best thing you could do is, like I was just saying earlier, like walk in nature. And it's like, the available technology can be a blessing or a curse, but it's something that you have to be very mindful of, and be able to choose ultimately what your definition is, and how you ultimately then are able to guard your mind and guard what you ultimately consume.
You mentioned a lot the flow state,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like being in the flow, feeling the reality, tuning into different pathways in life. As you also said before, less and less, especially because of technology, we're being able to live in a flow and be in a flow. And
Yeah.
do you think, like, is it because we just don't spend time with our own selves, or is it also because is that we have so many opinions and so much information on how you should live, how you should do things, how you should make money, or what is the next trend, what is the next thing, that maybe it's not only like we don't sit with ourselves, but we also don't even know. We have so many opinions that we don't even know what is true. At
Yeah,
this
yeah,
point, we don't even know how to follow. We don't even trust, even if we try to sit with ourselves. We don't even trust our own opinion, because there's so many opinions that and information that we're being given, that at some point you start to question yourself, because this person is like, I don't know, professor at this university, this person is like therapist, this person is that, and
yeah.
because we have so much information,
Absolutely.
we might even question our own opinions. So how do you find the balance between getting knowledgeable and actually listening to yourself, and how do you even trust your own self? Because there's so many great advice out there, and someone will listen to even this episode and will be like, oh my god, I have a realization, it's amazing, like what they're saying is true. But then at the end of the day, everyone is so unique and everyone has such a different experience, that it's like, even I struggle with this a lot. How do you balance like getting knowledgeable and
Mm.
actually trusting yourself, listening to your own advice, or even spending time with yourself? Because flow is basically trusting yourself, as
Yeah,
I
yeah,
can, my perception, as I can guess, is trusting your own self, trusting what you do, trusting what you have as a vision,
yeah.
trusting your intuition. So basically, how can you do that when you have such stimulation from everywhere in different opinions?
Yeah, it's a very good question, and very deep one. So it's a constant practice, even for me. But what comes to terms, what comes to mind when you talk about this particular question is being authentic, and like embracing your authentic self and knowing of your authentic self, because authenticity is probably one of the most like powerful vibrations to be in, because then like you can, let's say, listen to someone, but you can ultimately understand it in your eyes and your lens. And this is how I approach life. It's like I typically would look at something, I would read something or listen to someone, I'd be like, okay, that makes sense. And then I would then, like, I find that I have then a well of information. Then I can then source upon that and be like, okay, what am I going to do with this? And often there's been there's been moments on my journey where I felt that I have been a bit stuck on my journey, and this stuck energy has been because I essentially have not acted upon creating something. And through not creating something, through not moving ultimately, and being in that flow, being in that like moment of just doing, is when I then started to doubt myself. And so it's very interesting, like what you're talking about here, because it can be really simplified by just like literally just doing, like do something and just start doing, start learning, start like creating, start doing something. And when you're in that state, where you begin to then like, speed up momentum is powerful. And when you begin to do it more and more, you're gonna like be 10 years down the line, you'd be like, oh my god, I'm so far from where I was before. And you forget that part of yourself anyway. But from where I've understood my life recently, let's say in the last 6 months, I've been creating more building more and working upon, especially now realizing more about AI and realizing more about those things, and also about emerging trends. Trends is a funny thing to think about because like so much have I been humbled by with regards to like let's say trends and let's say like hype, and what I know of like this wisdom that I'm connected to with like let's say the tuning work, it's timeless. So I have no concerns about like not being understood or losing out, because it's timeless wisdom that I know when I like approach it with this mindset of being authentic, of being myself, will the right people come anyway. And it's the same for people in life as well. You can be a market of one. By that is something that I've learned by a really interesting freelance mentor called Brandon Dell. And I recently went on his course and I learned so much of his like freelance understanding, and I wanted to do it because I just wanted to hear of more of like an expert tech perspective. And what he was teaching was this market of one, like beyond working hourly, beyond working as a consultant, beyond working as an advisor. It's like, how can you be that market of one? How can you create that product or that expertise that makes you, Victoria, unique? What makes me, Bradley, unique? And how you can be of service to anyone in a unique way. And that you can then demand whatever price that you feel that you can. And that understanding is more embracing of our authentic self. And knowing that we all must be grateful and embrace the parts of ourselves that makes us who we are now, makes us who we are today. And then that like makes us understand, okay, that that's then when we begin to then realize, okay, we can make anything happen. You know, you can make that song, you can make that business, you can build that whatever you want to build, right? And create that family. And I feel like often in the world, like now with consumer culture and the way things are, it can make people confused. And actually, it's something that is quite an interesting perspective, and it's one that I really want to delve more deeper into. But I'm conscious of the time of this podcast. But it's something that is emerging within my life because these are perspectives that I'm realizations that I've been realizing more recently, and I know that it's going to open up more and more the more I reflect on things. But what I'm trying to say is that like you can be you by embracing you, and we should honor ourselves more. And the more that we honor and value ourselves, the more that we can then live life to the fullest.
And I do think it's also so important to be yourself and be aware of your weaknesses, be aware of your strong sides, be aware of who you are and how you position yourself. And like, as you said, being authentic, like if you can be authentic and if you can embrace who you are, you won't care much about others' opinion. And that's what you said with the project. Like it's timeless, and that's why it doesn't matter if it's like trendy or not. It doesn't matter if people understand it or not. You still will feel this sense of confidence to be like, I still will do that. And it only comes with like knowing yourself and being authentic. Because you know that if you're true to yourself, there will be so many people who will be attracted to that energy. Like in general, I think in especially digital world, we lack authenticity, like a crisis of people who are authentic, in my opinion, because everybody is chasing trends, chasing the next wave, chasing the next like opportunity. So
Likes, followers, money.
exactly. So we basically like don't really show our real selves. We don't even show the authenticity. And once you start to do that, at least a little bit, once you start to show who you actually are, people magically and opportunities they come to you. Why? Because like people they lack something as positive, as natural, as inspiring as an authentic human being. And it's like, it's about personal brand or is it about like projects? It doesn't matter. It's like the only way to actually get to the money or whatever the thing you want is to be yourself. Because if you try to chase the trend, there are millions of people who are doing that. So it's like social media, let's say. If you do what is trendy and you do the same content that 10 other creators, why would someone follow you, not them? You know what I mean? It's just like the game, who will do this more. Still, you're not gonna get the loyal fan base. You're not gonna get the results that you want, and you ultimately will never be satisfied. You will
Mm.
always have this comparison, or you will always chase the wrong things, and there's no satisfaction in that. But if you deeply know yourself and you know the mission and the things that you stand for, and you actively promote it, or you actively follow your gut, as they say, naturally people will be attracted to it because it's something new, it's something fresh, it's something that everybody aspires to be. Everyone wants to be confident, authentic, and if you can just give that, other people will want to work with you, even if you don't have, like, let's say, some technical skills, or even if you don't have, let's say, like the expertise. You can always get technical skills, you can always learn new things, but having a strong foundation in who you are, your energy, and what do you bring to other
Yeah.
people, it's like it's amazing. I love how you said this about your project, and it's like something that I'm
Likewise.
building nowadays, this confidence, this understanding of the only like way how things will work is when you're being yourself. If I will actually share my perspectives without fear of, oh, someone will judge me or whatever, that's the moment when more people will connect with me. That's the moment when more followers will come. That's the moment when the opportunities will come. No one wants to have one more, I don't know, Daniel Dallin. No one wants to have one more, I don't know, Iman Ghazi, whoever. Like the first came to my mind, kind of like mainstream among the people like us. And even all of those individuals that I named right now, they became viral and known because they were authentic. The same Daniel, like we met through his community basically, and the only reason why he blew up was because he's authentic.
Yeah, yeah.
Because he's like, you know what? Yeah, I'm not gonna show the flash life. I will show like me behind my computer 24/7. And that's like what was true to him. And that's what he showed. And that's how he attracted millions of other people who are like, oh my God, we have like, this new creator who is actually showing something relatable. There's always the market if you just actually do the thing that you are passionate about. And that's also, I think, why your project will definitely blow up and definitely be successful, because you don't try to push the narrative.
No.
You don't try to fit into this new age spirituality. You're not trying to be like, yes, guys, manifestation. Let's like drink our matcha and like manifest our dreams, like whatever. Even though it is the topic that you talk about partly, manifestation. You don't go with the wave, you know. It's like you go with your own ideas, and you can feel that even through a conversation. Like you go deep into the topics because it's the knowledge that you have, it's the experience that you have, and you're like openly expressing, hey, this is what happened with me, this is my story, this is how I went through all of the challenges, this is my bad experience, this is my good experience, this is like the deeper understanding of reality. And like you're not trying to tailor it to what people potentially want to hear. You just like say it the way it is. And if someone doesn't like it, it's their responsibility. It's their personal opinion. Even like the first question that I ask is, everybody welcome? And you were like, yeah. If you don't like it, you can leave. And
Absolutely.
you're just like unapologetically yourself. And that's amazing and it's beautiful. And that inspires me throughout the whole conversation. And I'm like, oh wow, like that's amazing how you can just like stand on your business and be like, yeah, like that's what I believe, that's what I stand for, that's how I see this, I believe in what I do. I just wanted to say that. It's
Thank
amazing.
you. Yeah, yeah. I agree. I agree so much, and yeah, really beautiful words. It resonates so true, and I I stand with you with that because it is like that. In order for you to really excel and to be great at something, you must learn how to stand on your own 2 feet and to do so well. And when you do so, you will like be at the summit of life, like because you'll be able to then see uh, with greater clarity about your journey, about your life, and this is ultimately the work that we're doing with people to make them see so on a deeper level. But then it's also like, okay, how can you actually realize things on such a level where you can fully conceptualize life? And People can do it naturally, without necessarily having guidance, or they can do it with guidance, which is why we're building the Attuning platform, because we do know that there are information that is hidden, gatekept, or lost in our world, and it's like, how can we remember that? How can we, make people realize things, that they can wake up and be more conscious and be able to live life with great clarity of not just only this human life, but of this infinite life that we live. Because it's not just all about chasing money, not all about chasing followers, likes. That doesn't last, nor does even the body that we're living in. You know, we're born in this life with nothing, and we leave this life with nothing. And so we must remember that, and know that we're much, much more than just this human life as well. So yeah, it's very, very powerful realization that I've been going through, to then be in the position now to be able to share more of this. And it's come out at such a really good time as well to be able to share this. And yeah, really grateful for being on this podcast today with you, Victoria. Thank you so much for co-hosting it, and that's really cool.
Yeah, I appreciate it so much. And even though I wrote while you were talking extra questions, and I have so many of them,
Oh wow.
I kind of asked half of them already, and I do think I will leave most of them for the next conversation we'll have.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
But is there a message, the last thing that you would want to say to people? If the world was listening to you right now, right? Everybody is listening. So what would you say to people? What is the idea you would spread?
So we are incredible beyond our expectations. We're only just scraping the surface to what we know of in life and of the human body and its intelligence. And it's all a remembrance. And we must surrender to the experience that life has for us. And be that visionary. Be that person that dreams. Be a dreamer. I invite you to be a dreamer. Because for me, being a dreamer, I continue to be blessed with these experiences that I have dreamt of. And so may that be a reminder to you to invite more experiences where you're just dreaming. You're dreaming through life, and you can know that you can remember that you're not alone as well, that you are together with people, that you are one with everyone, and you are I'm walking with you. And it's a really special experience being alive on Earth, and this human experience and being on Earth, which is in my eyes a paradise. The more I've traveled the world to see the way life is and the way nature is, it continues to surprise me on many levels. And Earth is Earth is a conscious being. In my eyes, it's a conscious being that the more we care for it, the more it will continue to bear us fruits. And we must look after Earth, and we must look after each other. And nature is a continued remembrance of our connectedness to consciousness. And I've benefited so greatly from connecting to nature on my journey with plant medicines and the indigenous elders, and the love that they have for Earth continues to reside in me. And the more you question life, the more you will begin to open up this level of curiosity that will take you places. There's so much more I want to say, but it's just to put it into one word, it's to put it into one sentence or something like that is so incredible.
But it is beautiful, everything that you're phrasing. It's and it does reflect the whole conversation basically we had, literally in one sentence.
Yeah, my words they only mean so much, because it's beyond the words. I trust that people can tune into the presence of ultimately what I'm embodying. It's the space between the words that one must tune into. It's a psychic connection as well. Like you might find that like there are certain things that might come through that might not necessarily like be in the words that I'm speaking of. And to that, like, for example, when I have created a tuning platform with my friend, people, like, no matter where you are, will be tuning in to listening to it. And they'll be like, I've had a different experience, like, different times. And it's like, because they, yes, like, okay, it can be understood differently, but then it's like, okay, there is this element of like, okay, connecting to your multidimensional self that can take place when you are in the present moment. And so that I mean that I am with you as well, like the viewer listening, like I can be with them as well when they're tuning in, and it can be like an interaction with them as well. Do you understand what I mean? Like, so like linear time, like I was saying, like you can watch this video and even after the video, you can still like interact and tune in with each other. You know, we're all interconnected. You know, we're all psychic on some level. You know, if you think of someone, they'll be able to receive it. Like, for example, I don't know if you have first-hand experience. If you thought of someone, and you're like, oh, I haven't spoken to them in a while, and they give you a call or give you a message like that same day or, you know, that same moment, you know, that is like proof that it exists. So it's like, okay, how can we begin to learn and play with this more, this understanding that is real? And that's when you tune into the state of knowingness. Okay, that is like, I know that you know me, and I know that you know that I know myself. And through knowing yourself, in my eyes, that is like, that's your seeing, like, that's how a master sees a master. An enlightened master sees an enlightened master because they realize themselves, because they know themselves. And this was known within ancient cultures. So, yeah, it's honestly, I'm so grateful that you organized this podcast, and it's beautiful how we're showing up in how we are to this podcast and how we're doing our best to be able to like make this a thing. And I love that we've managed to speak to like for like 2 hours, and it's good that we finally recorded one of our like phone calls, because before they'd been over like 4 hours. And this is like we can talk for a long time, and it's nice to be able to actually record one of our calls, because it's always been a joy to be able to connect with you, Victoria.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Same with me. And if we recorded the 5 hours ones, people wouldn't watch it. It would be too long. But I do feel like it's a privilege to talk to you whenever I have an opportunity, because I'm like, as I said, I'm always open to learning something new. And you do have a lot of things to say in a good way, and it's like always a blessing for me to learn new things, because even from this conversation I have my own takeaways. I'm sure the viewer has their own takeaways, and it's beautiful how we can connect, as you said, with each other and share the experiences, because at the end of the day, everything we know, it's like basically different experiences. It's like you don't have to live so many lives. You don't have to make your own mistakes. You can just listen to others sometimes and like take their experiences and like make your life easier. So that's the deal of podcasting. No, it's incredible. Like I even don't know how to express myself right now, because I'm like, wow, so many things to think about, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And there's more where it came from, and my ability to also communicate has been something that I've been wanting to work on more, and it will only come through practice. So I'm grateful that we're able to, you know, dedicate time to this, to be able to, finalize it and be able to upload it, and for it to then be out there in the world. And then that's then a great way to then improve and to work on something more in the future.
I appreciate the experience, because we wanted to do that for a long time. It's been maybe like 6 months of procrastination on the podcast,
It is
but
procrastination, yeah.
It is. But at the same time, I do feel like we were talking about this a lot today, but you should face your fears. Because even recording this episode, I was procrastinating on this, because I was like, oh, I don't know what to ask. I don't know what to say. I don't feel like, you know, because I've never done it before. And in my head, it's like, oh, what if something goes wrong? But you have to face it. That's it. That's the only way to get through it. And in time, with practice, you will get better. Push yourself beyond your fears and just like step into this and just experience the thing, and if anything, improve later. Because like at the end of the day, time is limited. We're not gonna be here forever. And we shouldn't fear of something that is not even real. All of those fears, all of the thoughts, all of the experiences, most of the time it's like illusion to some extent.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you shouldn't be scared of something like that. You should go and try things. Go and do things. Don't delay it. There's a quote that says like, if you jump in the water later, like it's not gonna get warmer or something like that. It's like water is not gonna get warm just because you jump into the water later. Nothing will change. Your skills are not gonna get better. Experience is not gonna be better if you don't start and don't improve later.
Nothing changes, nothing changes.
Amen to that. Yes. So basically, like, I'm so grateful, and at the same time, I hope we will have one more episode.
Absolutely. There's so much to talk about.
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Victoria. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much for coming. I appreciate
You're
it.
welcome.